Good morning. It's so great to see you all here. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to be with us. And I know some of you have traveled a great distance to be here as well, so thank you so much on behalf of my family and me for coming. My name is Pete, for those of you who don't know me. I'm the middle son. Thank you also for your prayers. We've really sensed God's peace which passes understanding this week, and He's really strengthened us, so thank you so much. So thanks again for being here to support us in our time of grief and joining us in remembering Dad. When I think about Dad, some of the things that come to mind are what Lasse was already talking about, the hunting and fishing. He loved doing things outdoors, and some of my fondest memories as a child were the family picnics we would go on and the camping trips that we would go on. And, on all his hunting and fishing trips, like Lasse already said, he'd come home and we'd say, "What did you catch?" And he'd say, "Fresh air." It was the very rare time he actually brought something home, but he just loved being out there. So. Another thing that comes to mind when I think about my dad is snoring. My dad was good at a lot of things, but one thing that I think he was maybe world champion at was snoring. And he would literally shake the walls. And I remember as a child and a teenager sleeping at the far end of the house from my parents' bedroom, and my dad would be snoring, and I was thinking, it's no wonder that as a teenager we slept till noon, because we probably didn't sleep much at night. So, and same thing with the camping trips and that, because we'd be in our little green and white tent trailer, which you'll see in the slide presentation afterwards. There's a picture of it, and we'd be out there in the middle of somewhere up by some lake, and my dad would be in the tent trailer snoring away. The rest of us would be trying to sleep, but you could be sure that there'd be no bears around or any wild animals, because they'd all be scared off. So, and when it was coming to the end, and that Sunday when the hospital phoned us and let us know that Dad was very ill and that he only had a couple of days left, I went in and sat by his bed, and I listened to his labored breathing as he was sleeping. He was still snoring. and I thought, this is what I'm going to miss. I'm going to miss that snoring. And the following morning, Miko phoned me very early in the morning and said, "You might want to come down to the hospital. Dad's not doing very well." And so I got up and got dressed as fast as I could and came to the hospital and came in the room. I looked inside the curtain, and my dad was so peacefully lying there. The first thing I noticed was he wasn't snoring anymore. Can I get a Kleenex? God speaks to us in many different ways. And, He speaks to us through His Word and by His Spirit. But He also speaks to us in other ways if we just, open up our spiritual ears and be in tune to what He's saying. And I want to read a little bit. It's something that my wife wrote. And this is what she writes. "Okay, how does he do that? How does he read my mail and know exactly what page I'm going to turn to, at exactly what time, and exactly what paragraph I need to read, and how much it will impact me at that particular moment, that breath in time? God speaks to me in many forms, all sorts of ways, through visions, dreams, nature, books,
sounds, whatever he can. He is never silent, especially when I'm sleeping, so that I can't open my mouth and interrupt. He patiently sits on the sidelines, waiting for us to come to him, encouraging us along the way, to willingly choose a life, accepting his wisdom and direction. That is, if we listen and keep our eyes open. It was the Sunday before my dad passed away, and Ann and I started noticing 11s everywhere. We got a parking pass and it expired at 11:11. And everywhere we looked, we were seeing 11s. And so I asked Dad, what does 11 represent? Because numbers have spiritual meaning and biblical significance. So Ann had a prophetic dictionary at home. So we went home and looked up the number 11. And the number 11 represents paradigm shifts. And it also represents a transfer of power. And I thought to myself immediately, well, there's going to, obviously we're going through a big shift, and the very next day we did go through a big shift with Dad passing. And John 11:11 we looked up as well, and it's the verse where Jesus is talking to his disciples about Lazarus, and he's telling his disciples that Lazarus sleeps. And his disciples didn't understand. They thought, oh good, he's getting a good rest, so he'll be fine. But Jesus meant that Lazarus was actually dead. And he had to explain it to his disciples, who weren't always the sharpest pencils in the drawer, I suppose. Anyways, and I also read on farther and got to John 11:35. And of course, that's every Sunday school child's favorite memory verse, because it's only 2 words long. It says, Jesus wept. And interestingly enough, though, as you read the story, Jesus wasn't weeping because Lazarus was dead, because to Jesus that wasn't an issue. Jesus was weeping because he was sharing the grief of those who were grieving Lazarus, because they didn't understand the power of resurrection. And so even today, Jesus joins us in our sorrow and our grief. I just want to, as the number 11 represents a transfer of power, I just want to speak a little bit about my brother Miko and how proud I am of him. Because he spent the whole night with my dad that last night, and he's just stepped up to the plate in so many ways in giving the eulogy this morning, and he's really taken charge and taken hold of his new responsibilities. So Miko, I honor you and thank you for doing that, and I'm very proud of you.